go live.
Maybe, yeah, I was going to say maybe your internet's having an issue.
No, it's alright, it's fine. We're live.
Cool. All right. Well.
So can we really start the show with a Star Spangled Banner?
If you want to give us a rendition of it, then go.
I could definitely do a Star Spangled Banner.
If you want to crack on, but like I'm about to shit all over a 4th of July episode of Raw.
Well, that's why it'd be funny.
Well, if you want to wrap that into your intro, feel free.
And here we have Michael Allen. Oh, say can no. Right.
Cool.
I won't do that. But throughout the show, I am going to try slipping lines.
I don't know well enough to even make that happen, but feel free to knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I burst into laughter for apparently no reason,
That'll be why.
that'd be why.
Right. Cool. Well, all right, let's get this going then. Hello and welcome to the Out of Nowhere podcast. After a lengthy absence for some reason, Russ is back and he's hosting this week. And with me, I have got Michael Allen.
Are you talking in third person? Russ is back and Michael is here too.
And we've got Chelsea Edgerton.
Yeah, she's here as well.
Awesome. We will now refer to ourselves in the third person for the rest of the show.
Awesome.
How's everyone doing? It's been a while since I've been on here and hosting.
Well, Michael's really good.
Yeah.
Chelsea's not bad either. She thought you'd died.
Well, Russ did die, and he's really happy to hear that you're all okay.
I still think Oliver's dead.
Who's that?
Oh, I broke the wall. I said I. Damn. I'm out. I still think Oliver's dead, even though he kind of made an appearance in our chat for the first time in ages. He soon disappeared again, so I think he might be dead.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where Oliver and Russ need to get on the show more because who initially came on as a guest, Steve's actually going to outperform us in performances soon enough.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I need to go back and like catalogue how many people have done appearances on the show. I'm definitely not going to do that.
So this week in wrestling, we had an episode of Raw that was pretty forgettable for everyone outside of the US, I get. And we'll cover that briefly. I'm going to move on to some draft talk. As the upcoming draft is quite an exciting period for WWE, depending on how you look at it. Some people I've heard not so excited about the draft, but we're going to discuss that, how we think it's going to go, a few predictions on who we think is going to go where, and how that might shape up the next couple of months. But moving on to that episode of Raw, anybody have any opinions on what was basically a 4th of July house show?
Chelsea didn't watch it.
I mean, I was up and watching it live, and I got through the first 2 hours, and then the dawn's early light started coming up, and I thought, that's it. I'm off to bed now. So I turned it off. But yeah, the show was. It was just. I mean, if you could personify the show in just one person, it'd just be John Cena. Red, white, and blue, patriotic and American, and I think that's basically sums it up. Like I didn't even watch I still haven't watched the main event because it's just a totally unnecessary part of the show. If they could have just opened it up and got all of that bit out of the way at the beginning, it would have been all right. But it went on too long. But big props to the food fight that opened the show. That was ridiculous, and Kevin Owens was obviously stealing the show by hiding under the table.
That food fight, is it not a bit weird? Like in a world where we're supposed to believe that there's heels and faces, and then they're all big, happy, smiley, food fighting people backstage. It was just a bit weird for me.
It was weird for me because how much money do you reckon was wasted on that food fight? I really want to know how much money they spent on that food.
Yeah,
because as far as I could see, there was no product placement. Which,
It's like every time they bring out a cake on wrestling, it gets smashed into someone's face, and they're not cheap.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But I mean, Kevin Owens sneaking out under the table, totally clean, and coming out with the line, "Yeah, this would never happen on Canada Day." Well done, Kevin. Until someone put a pie in his face, and he got a bit mad.
Who put the pie in his face?
We don't know. It was just walking around, and then it was a kind of cameraman shot.
Oh, okay.
And he just got mad. Like, it would have been funnier if it was Sami Zayn just came over and planted a pie in his face, but no, we didn't see.
Yeah, I just found the whole episode maybe a little bit sick in my mouth, to be honest. I don't know how else to put it. It's just one of them. I suppose you expect it on the 4th of July. You know, they're entitled to celebrate. It's kind of a big national holiday over there. But
Yeah.
for international viewers, it just I can see why the ratings tank. If I'd imagine they do anyway. I've not seen them for last week, but I can see why anyone outside of America would just switch that one off.
Well, I suppose in the land of freedom, that's what you're allowed. But even if you're American and you're celebrating the 4th of July, like, does this appeal to you? I really want to know. Like, as an American, does that appeal to you, watching red, white, and blue versus the world?
I think I would know the answer to that.
No? Yes? Well, I genuinely don't know.
I suppose it depends who watches wrestling. But then again, if it's sort of Vince McMahon's idea, he's probably got the idea of everyone who watches wrestling is from the South. Like, he's probably got a 90s view of who watches wrestling.
Well, all I know is that it clearly wasn't going for a global audience at this point.
No, and I think in terms of storyline development and the things we'd usually talk about on our podcast, it didn't really give us much to work with. There's a couple of segments. There was one with Xavier Woods in the New Day with the Wyatts, and then I believe something with Cena and the club as well. But other than that, there was no real sort of further development. It was kind of a week off almost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, have you watched the show, Russ, or have you just?
I've seen bits and pieces, but to be honest, I couldn't stomach the whole thing.
Well, you're about right then. To sum it up, it was American. We got an advance on the Cena. We got advance on the tag. We got an advance on the Divas title, women's title, and the world heavyweight title just remained the same as it was. That's exactly it's remained the status quo. And we had a US title match.
Okay.
Which I guess the only question for that one, we had a title match to open the show, and Titus O'Neil lost, but we all thought he would get that match at the next pay-per-view. But why would he get another shot at the pay-per-view now? That wouldn't make sense.
True, and given what happened with Titus O'Neil in the recent past, with him being suspended for putting his hands on Vince, why would they give him a pay-per-view payday in a title match?
Do you think they'll get a pay-per-view payday even if they're on the pre-show?
Good question.
They must get something, mustn't they?
But I can't imagine Vince just bringing him straight back and rewarding him with a title shot at a pay-per-view after what he did, because I can imagine Vince taking that shit really badly. He obviously took it badly.
I know you've been missing, Russ, but this clearly shows that you've been missing and not listening, because our opinion on the O'Neil thing is that I think it's a general consensus. If I'm right, Chelsea, you can correct me. Is that he was suspended, but he was used as a scapegoat, and now he's come back and he's getting all of this as an apology for an overreaction, but a necessary evil.
Okay, fair enough.
That was our opinion, and he's getting these rewards, if you want to call them rewards, because he was that scapegoat.
Right. Okay.
That's my opinion, anyway.
Fair enough. I mean, Chelsea, have you got anything else to add to Raw? I mean, I don't know how much of it you saw. Probably not the same amount as me, I'd imagine. But
I read the Bleacher Report Tuesday morning, and I cannot remember a single thing that it said. So that's how much attention I paid this week.
Yeah, that probably sums it up.
I'm really glad this wrestling podcast has such dedicated wrestling watchers. Well, if I can briefly summarise the two parts of the show that were interesting, and you can chime in and give your impressions of it, Chelsea, since you can't remember it, and Russ, if you have watched it, you can as well. Cena and AJ Styles, there was advance on that storyline there. Cena's out in the ring, says, "If you want some, come get some." That's his new phrase to them, because he don't want to look over his shoulder anymore. He just wants them to come out and face him in, head on. So if you want some, come get some. Out come the club, who basically did the whole you're gonna try and bury me angle again. But if you look at last week, even when we were beating you down, Cena, no one came out to help you. So they go down to the ring to beat him up, and as they're getting beat up, out come Enzo and Cass, and now at Battleground we have a 6-man tag match.
I think I'm really losing my love for Enzo and Cass. Like, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if I'm just bored now, but if anything, that's just, I couldn't care less for that match now.
Did you what? It's took away from the match.
I don't know if it's. I think the wrestling ability of like Styles and the club and Cena is above and beyond what Enzo and Cass are capable of. I mean, if anything, they're going to be there for a couple of hot tags and maybe even the finish with the rocket launcher. But I think the past couple of weeks, I just haven't been bothered with Enzo and Cass at all. I think it's finally going stale.
I wouldn't want to say I told you so, but sounds like there's a couple of haters.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one with Enzo and Cass. I mean, there is only so many times you can say the same thing before it gets a bit boring and the impact's lessened. And you see him every week, so I can understand that. And it's a strange pairing to throw into this kind of 6-man scene, but when you think that they were going for the number 1 contendership in the tag division, but that seems to have ebbed away, what else do they do with them, really?
Yeah, I think that is the thing, is they don't know what to do with them. But I don't know. We'll see how good the match is. I mean, maybe working with Anderson and Gallows and Cena and stuff, it might bring out the best of them. It could be a really good match.
That's in the shake-up because they're obviously protected.
There was something that was going to happen in this match, because we didn't see this match being just Cena versus Styles, and we've got our answer now that there is going to be a 6-man tag, because I think we agreed in the end that something was going to happen where it wasn't just Cena versus Styles, and it was either going to be Cena versus the club in the handicap match, or it was going to be Cena versus the Gallows and Anderson, and AJ Styles was just at the ringside or whatever. But now we've got our answer, at least, that it's not a 1-on-1 as we suspected. It is a 6-man tag match. But to what end? I mean, what do Enzo and Cass get out of it if they lose? So this is a straight up Cena, Enzo and Cass victory in my eyes.
Well, if Cena, Enzo and Cass do lose, it ain't going to be Enzo, it ain't going to be Cena or Big Cass that get pinned, because they're protecting Big Cass for a singles run down the line. Maybe you can tell that Cena ain't going to be taking the hit, so Enzo's going to be taking on for the 3 of them if it is the club that's going over.
Did any of you see the Enzo and Cass Sonic commercial? Not commercial, I suppose. The skit that they did. It's on their YouTube channel, WWE's YouTube channel, for a $5 box. They've just become WWE's. Like we had DX doing the WWE shop stuff. We've now just got Enzo and Cass. That's what we've got.
Well, to be fair, if they're shifting merch, the WWE are going to look after them if they're making money.
I suppose that's true. Anyway, so that was that one, and the only other one of note is the tag team scene. We had the New Day come down to the ring, Big E and Kofi Kingston in their usual New Day mannerisms. We've got Xavier Woods ringside with his new quieter demeanour, and they're giving it a bit of lip, saying, yeah, we're going to beat the New Day, we're going to beat the Wyatt family, we accept their challenge. the Wyatt comes on the Titantron, saying, "Come to our compound and beat us, meet us here, and we'll have a match or whatever." Which the New Day accept, and finally Xavier Woods shouts "shut up" or something to that respect, and tells Big E and Kofi that if they don't take the Wyatt seriously, this isn't fun anymore. This is serious, and if they don't take the Wyatt seriously, then perhaps that the New Day will not survive this. In what is the first glimpse, perhaps, that the New Day are not going to stay on after the draft, potentially.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to the draft shortly and how that might impact people like the New Day, but did they have to wait for the Hardys to finish with the compound before the Wyatts could hire it out?
I'm sure WWE's compound is a lot better than TNA.
I don't know, if they've got fireworks and a pool and a pond or whatever it is next to it.
Has that match happened yet?
I believe so, but I've not seen it.
No, I really want to go watch what that is. The Hardys are tearing it up in TNA, for those who are wondering what we're talking about, in what is possibly some of the... I can only describe it as batshit crazy story videos on YouTube that I've ever seen. It's just out there.
No idea what's going on. No idea what's going on, but for some reason I just keep wanting to watch it.
Yeah, it's true actually. I mean, weirdness sells, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure who's supposed to win or what anyone gets out of it, but yeah.
Probably tetanus or something.
And doing it in the Hardys' back garden means that TNA don't have to worry about not selling out an arena.
They just have to do the YouTube clicks out.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, that's basically it on Raw.
Yeah.
Those two segments are the only two that have really advanced any stories. But I think the New Day splitting up ties us nicely over into the draft.
Yeah, definitely. So, thought we'd kick off with a bit of discussion about how we think this is going to go. So, obviously the draft's coming up. No concrete information out there yet, but there's rumblings that there's going to be 2 main belts, potentially 2 pay-per-views per month as well. It's not confirmed, but I've heard that on other podcasts, and it's been speculated by people like Dave Meltzer. So that theory's out there. I mean, how would you two feel about that if they just doubled up on everything? I mean, there's already a lot of wrestling to watch, sort of 5 hours a week. So would adding another pay-per-view into the mix really help?
Charles? Chelsea!
It would appear Chelsea's dead, man.
You would, wouldn't it?
Okay, the show goes on. Right. In my opinion, it probably will be a bit too much, but it depends how they do it. I mean, how do you see this shaping up? Do you think they'll just double up on everything, or do you think they'll be a bit smarter about it?
Yeah, I think they will double up. Because, more than anything, they're not going to go 8 weeks in between storyline pay-per-views, storyline climaxes, and unless they're going to have more title defenses on Raw or SmackDown, which I can't see happening. They've got to have that outlet, and pay-per-views make sense. They have no additional cost to give out. I think we can hear Chelsea again now. They have no additional cost if they do it either, because they're going to make the money on the tickets. They don't have to give anything to distribution. They distribute it all on the WWE network, so no one's taken a cut. Less people having pay-per-view buys for sure, but I think they'll probably get more of a profit simply because of tickets. So it makes sense from a business point of view. So yeah, I definitely think they're going to have 2 a month. Whether or not that's a good thing to do, I'm not against it at all. The only thing I am against is the fact that we'll have to have 2 podcast pay-per-view recap shows in a month, and those 4 a.m. go to bed up at 8 o'clock are killers.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
agreed.
that's the only downside to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of wrestling to watch. There'll be 5 hours of live TV a week, and then add to that 2 3 hour, assuming they're going to be 3 hour pay-per-views every month as well. It's a lot to cover. And my only concern with it, I agree with you that I think that business-wise it makes sense to them, but from the fans' point of view, it might divide the viewership because people have only got so much time to dedicate to this. So are they going to pick a show and stick with it? Is one show obviously going to be the B show, in which case it will kind of get left behind. There's a lot of questions up in the air, but from my point of view, I worry about, because when you look at some of the pay-per-views, like Fastlane, for example, it's the one before Mania, and it's, in my mind, one of the weakest pay-per-views on the calendar, because it's not really going to change much unless something goes tits up and they need to change it. And it's kind of just maintaining the status quo in the run into WrestleMania. I don't give a shit about it anyway, so what, they're going to do it twice? I don't really see my incentive to watch either of them, to be honest. So it's things like that on the calendar that I look at as kind of a weak spot in this.
Yeah, they're the weird shows though, aren't they? You have the WrestleMania Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and what's the other main one? SummerSlam. That'll be the shows that will be joint ones again. I guess the 4 main pay-per-views that are all going to be joint. And mashing it all into those shows will be a bit difficult, because if it is 2 a month, you're going to have a show that having 2 weeks between pay-per-views,
Exactly.
which will be, I mean, a squash if anything else. Chelsea, are you back? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it's going to be completely oversaturated. Like, there is no need for that much wrestling to be on. Like what Russ was saying about Fastlane, for example, is that pay-per-view doesn't need to happen. And if you're going to add in another pay-per-view a month, it is going to be a case of you are only going to follow one brand. You are only going to pay really attention to one of the pay-per-views. I think it's going to be very easy to get bored, because with that many pay-per-views, there's not going to be that much storyline development between them. Nothing is going to feel important, I don't think, other than those main 4. I just think the pay-per-view is becoming less of a importance, I think, and it's less is more, I think, when it comes to pay-per-views.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing I will say in terms of you've kind of got 2 tracks to follow now. You've got Raw and its pay-per-views and SmackDown and its pay-per-views. The one thing I do like about that, to kind of put a positive spin on it, is if you're watching Raw and they decide to Roman Reigns it for a year, where they push someone so much, everyone hates it, it gets shit on every week, and you're bored of it, you do actually now have potentially an alternative that you might prefer. So I do quite like the fact there's some choice there as well, if you're in a situation where you don't like where one or the other's going.
But you're still going to watch it every week anyway, aren't you? Or at least you're still going to be interested in what happens every week.
I'll follow it, yeah, but I mean, it kind of allows you to focus your time, I guess. If you've not got the time to watch both, you're going to pick where your favourite guys are, where your favourite storylines are. It's nice to at least have that choice.
I also think the opposite is true. That there's people out there like me who only watch Raw and read up on SmackDown because SmackDown doesn't interest you. There's too much Raw recap nonsense, and it is definitively a B show. But with the draft, and it's going to be its own separate thing, its own separate writing, its own brand, completely. That I am going to be more inclined to watch it, and the extra 2 hours. I mean, that's 2 hours less that I'm not going to play a video game. That's how it's going to be. It's not like I'm making a decision between, life getting in the way. It's just another part of my recreation that will be dedicated to wrestling rather than playing games or something else. So I'm fairly confident that there's more people like that than there will be who are going, oh, that extra 2 hours, nope, can't do it, I'm not bothered.
I think it comes down to the fact that we might see 2 very different styles. This one of sort of my prediction, if you like, there'll be 2 different styles for the show. So if you look at Raw and the people that I think we're probably all going to predict to be on Raw, people like Roman Reigns, I think that's where they'll keep your whole wrestling storylines and your drama. But if you can have a show like SmackDown where you get you guys coming from the NXT, your indie darlings, those kind of guys, and it's more focused on the actual wrestling, more akin to something like NXT, it could also depend which show caters to what you prefer watching the most as well in terms of the style.
I definitely think that's going to be the case as well. I think Raw is still going to be the very heavy entertainment side of things, and then SmackDown will be will kind of just like a glorified NXT sort of thing. But I think
wrestling for wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Well, do you think we're going to actually be able to call them wrestlers?
I don't think Vince would go that far. But
Don't be fucking crazy, Michael. Jesus.
Well, to be fair, at least he's started calling women recently, so you never know.
Do you really think he still calls them women?
Well,
Yeah, I reckon.
I'm still conditioned to call them divas. I do it every week, and I'm really sorry. I'm just, conditioned that way. I don't know how Michael Cole and JBL and that lot do it.
But yeah, it's interesting times, and I'm quite happy to give it all a shot because I've seen a lot of negativity about it, but I also think that given how deep the roster is and the fact that it is kind of the only game in town at the moment, if you're kind of into just mainstream wrestling, it's nice that there's going to be more choice, a bit more diversity, and I'm quite looking forward to it actually because I think a shake-up's needed.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's all good things. I mean, how long have been asking for a live 2-hour show? Yeah, we all thought that we could have had Raw being shortened would be the best option, but if it goes the way that Chelsea said, and it's more a wrestling show for wrestling fans, and it's more NXT on Pro Plus or whatever, then I'm all for it.
Yep, agreed.
I mean, how PG was that? SmackDown on Pro Plus rather than NXT on Pro Plus rather than Speed or Crack or something.
Or severe painkiller addictions if you're keeping it in wrestling themes.
No, I went with Pro Plus caffeine.
Well, I mean, moving on to how we think the draft might shake up. Then I asked you guys and the guys that aren't on the pod, Steve and Ollie, to throw me 5 names for each show that you think will be the main guys there, and I've kind of tallied it up into a general out of nowhere prediction, if you like. Starting with Raw, the 5 guys that we got the most votes for Raw were Reigns, Ambrose, Rollins, Orton, and Lesnar. So do we think that's fairly accurate?
I cannot see all 3 members of the Shield being on that show.
No?
No, I definitely think that one of them at least is going to end up on the other show. I think they're all they're all main event picture at the moment, aren't they? And I think that with the changes that are coming, I definitely think they're going to take one of them across the other side to kind of, whether it be Roman Reigns left on Raw and then moving Dean Ambrose across or something like that. I definitely think they need to separate those 3 just to give the main event scene on Raw just a little bit more space, because 3 people already there is already pretty top heavy.
So take one of those guys out. Who do you think that one would be to make the jump, Ambrose? He got the most votes the other way, I should say.
Yeah, I think I voted Ambrose, and the reason I thought that is because it doesn't make sense in my head for the champion to not go first in a draft. So if it's on SmackDown and this is SmackDown Live, which they keep calling it SmackDown Live, which I don't like, just call it SmackDown. It just happens to be going live. Don't call it SmackDown Live. Do they call it Raw Live?
Nope, it's just Monday Night Raw, isn't it?
Really annoying. But yeah, if SmackDown go first on SmackDown Live, I think they pick the champ, don't they? That makes sense to me.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Unless they just go red, white, and blue and go Cena.
I think the Cena is going to be the first pick, but I also think it really depends on who's running what. I mean, we haven't discussed this yet, but if it is, say, Steph running Raw and then maybe not Shane that's running SmackDown, we already know where Steph stands with Dean Ambrose. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it really just depends who's running the other show, because Dean Ambrose isn't exactly the authority's favourite, is he?
That's the one thing I'm most excited for through this whole thing, is finding out who who's going to be running this other show, because I genuinely don't think it's going to be Shane.
I
And completely conspicuous by their absence, with all these past general managers that are coming out, I'm more and more inclined to tell you that it's going to be the Heyman or Bischoff. I'm telling you, man. And and maybe I'm just being naive, but I cannot wait if it is.
Well, when we first found out about this draft, I remember me and you doing some fantasy draft picks, Mike, and
Yeah.
Paul Heyman was the guy that we picked for one of the shows, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we picked Paul. Yeah, Paul Heyman and Triple H
Yeah.
were the two running our shows, and who wouldn't want that?
I really think we need to see Triple H come back into the picture for this draft.
Do you think we
Because-
could possibly set Triple H and Stephanie against each other?
Steven suggested that, didn't he? It was which I'd never thought of.
But like, because when Triple H's contract renewed a couple of months ago, he was renewed still as a performer as well. So whether he gets drafted or whether he comes to take the other show, I definitely think that's another prediction. I think that we're going to see Triple H come back.
Do you reckon he just comes back in full authority knobhead mode and says, I'm the authority, I'm running this show, and my first draft pick is me, now fuck off. Like,
I would love that.
That's pretty funny.
But no, I definitely think
yeah.
we do need to see a return of Trips, because it has been how many months since WrestleMania now?
4.
yeah.
It's far too long. We need Trips back.
Well, it was early April, wasn't it? So all of April, May, all of June, 3, and this month.
Another name that popped up on the 5 from Raw was the forgotten man Randy Orton. I mean, where do we see him coming back? Because the draft makes sense. It makes sense for him to come back during the draft, but do you still see him as main event, or do we think he's maybe dropped down the pecking order a little bit now?
Well, he's big money, isn't he? So when he comes back, he's gonna be main event. I just hope he's not in the same situation as he was before, because when he's heel and he's the Viper and he is the Legend Killer, he's a good heel, that is for sure. But when he did this whole babyface played up to the crowd thing, it just doesn't work for his character. How can they call him the Viper? He's like he's a baby Triple H, he's an assassin and all this jazz. When he's trying to play up to the kids, that doesn't marry up. But I am so hoping that he comes back in a vicious way. I think I suggested it were come back as not a legend killer, but a killer of young talent. So try to take out, just target up and coming stars. So he doesn't necessarily have to be in the picture that way. But I guess that could totally bury some people. so maybe not.
Fresh out of NXT, your first feud's getting buried by Randy Orton. Cheers.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Vince.
All right. Maybe that was a bad plan on my part.
Well, it could work if some people actually get past him, but then there comes a point where you've done it so many times, Randy Orton just looks like a chump.
Yeah, he can't be like who was it who was saying who just always loses? Bray. He can't be like Bray where he's like always losing.
Yeah,
like
Brian
always.
Ziggler.
Or Posicles.
So yeah, and Lesnar as well was the 5th name on the list in terms of votes. I mean, do we think he's going to come back on a regular basis? It seems weird to prioritise someone like him in a draft. I know his name is a draw and he's big money, but it seems weird to prioritise someone in a draft that's only going to turn up for 3-4 shows a year and pay-per-views.
I think it is mainly from the drafters' point of view. I think it mainly is going to come down to the fact that they can be like, we have got Lesnar sort of thing, like just unleash him when he's around for SummerSlam and WrestleMania.
So when's his UFC fight?
It's before SummerSlam, isn't it?
Yeah, UFC 200, and also it was announced on Raw this week that his SummerSlam opponent will be announced on SmackDown.
But what happens if he gets absolutely brained in his UFC fight? Like, doesn't that kind of shatter the illusion?
That is exactly what's going to happen. Brock Lesnar is just going to get massively defeated at UFC, and just going to be unable to compete at SummerSlam, and it's all going to be a waste of time.
I mean, the guy who is fighting can knock people out, but I don't see Brock Lesnar being that overpowered by him. So I think Brock's safe. I think it's being booked in a way that Brock Lesnar's not in any real danger, and neither is the WWE.
No, I agree. They've probably not put him against someone who's massively challenging, but ultimately it's UFC, and so anyone can get KO'd.
Ultimate,
really, but...
like what he's doing there.
So yeah.
Just as a tangent, then, with the fact that his SummerSlam opponent's going to be announced on SmackDown, who do you think his SummerSlam opponent will be?
I would love for it to be Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I would as well. And I'd love for Kevin Owens, if Brock Lesnar does get knocked out, to do a massive promo about how he's just a fucking idiot and he got domed in UFC and can't hack it anymore.
That would be delightful.
They wouldn't bring it up though, surely, if he lost, because it would just be like, the Beast, UFC champ. Oh, he lost.
Yeah, but you can imagine him coming back. Paul Heyman's doing his whole spiel about Brock Lesnar, and Kevin Owens comes out and he's like, whoa. Did you not see what happened?
Oh yeah, for sure. I could see that. I could see that quite easily. Would be good.
So yeah, they're the names for Raw. So we have Reigns, Ambrose, Rollins, Orton, and Lesnar. Although question mark over Ambrose because he was almost a 50-50 split either way. But I think they'll keep the Shield together for a bit longer. But we'll see about that one. Moving on to SmackDown, the 5 names we got were top of the list with the most votes was Finn Balor, and then Owens.
He was top of the list.
Top of the list.
Wow.
And then we had Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, and John Cena. I'm at 5. So that's a pretty good 5, to be fair.
I would be all over SmackDown if that was their top 5.
Can you repeat the 5 again for me? So it was Balor,
Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, and John Cena.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fucking awesome, doesn't it? We said for a while that we thought that the SmackDown would be NXT, pro NXT rather than NXT Light, which I guess is what we get down in Full Sail 1 hour a week. But we also thought that Triple H would be heavily behind SmackDown in that regard. So,
do you still think that just going back to Triple H again, that could still definitely be an option for what happens? I mean, if you're saying that you don't think that Shane is gonna come back, I think one of the obvious choices would be Triple H, and for Triple H to take Reigns over something like that is packed full of like Owens, Zayn, Balor, that just
it excites me thinking about it.
It really would, wouldn't it? I think if that happens, then I've fully thrown myself into SmackDown because it will definitely be the better product.
To me, it all goes down to what's the genesis of this SmackDown Live idea? Is it a Vince production? Because if it is, that ain't happening because he hates NXT anyway. And if it isn't his brainchild, if it is more of a Triple H Stephanie thing, yeah, I can see it, and I'm all for it. So
the SmackDown going live thing is very much a USA Network isn't happy with what SmackDown's doing, so that's the reasoning for that going live. The brand split, which I think is the main thing to think about, is that it's got to be Vince, hasn't it?
I think so.
I think so. I mean, addressing the elephant in the room with that list, or in my mind anyway, John Cena, great, he's a big draw, and great for the guys to be working with him. But if you've got a lot of people coming from NXT, or you're going for the more straight wrestling show, and Cena's just burying everyone, if he carries on doing that, isn't that a bit counterintuitive?
I don't think that Cena's going to bury anyone at all. I think I think if we do end up with 2 world titles, Cena is definitely going to be one of the first people to get it, because that will easily make up for him to equal Ric Flair at that point. But I think as soon as that's out the way, I think John Cena is just going to be there to work, and I definitely think that he's definitely one of the best people to have down there with them.
if more than anything, they need if it is the USA Network who are saying, oh, we need more viewers, the way to do it is put Cena on it, and the way to do it even more is to put a belt on Cena.
Yeah.
Get people in that way. I actually don't think that Cena would start as the champion. I think if anybody out of that list, he'll go there and be champ. It's more likely to be Kevin Owens.
I'd have thought they'd give Styles a run.
I don't know. I think out of all 5 of those people, I don't think there's anyone that I wouldn't say no to.
Well,
like,
we know you wouldn't say no to him, Chelsea, but what do you think about
And
that too.
Sorry.
Fine.
Oh, Podula scored!
Oh, thanks. Spoilers.
The Welsh are going
Spoilers.
out.
Oh no.
what a shame. But another question I was going to ask about the list. I mean, Finn Balor came out on top, so there's obviously a clear thought from our minds, at least, that there is going to be some movement from NXT straight away. I mean, in terms of someone like Balor coming up, how do you see him being the only one, or do you think there's going to be a sudden influx? So I was thinking along the lines of we might see American Alpha come up early as part of this draft. But is there anyone else from NXT that you think will come up? I know Steve, one of his sort of more off-the-wall predictions was that Nakamura was coming up with Finn during the draft, but I think it might be a bit soon for that. But I mean, how do you guys see it?
I think Finn coming up is like there's no doubt about that at all. I think Finn is 100% going to be there for the draft. I think American Alpha is a really good shout. They're not really doing much down in NXT anymore, are they? And I think the reason for that is they're being brought up too, just to pad out the tag teams a bit more. But for singles, I think that might be it. I definitely think it's far too early for Nakamura to come up. I mean, if anyone's going to take the belt off Joe, I think Nakamura is the guy that's going to do it. But I'd like to see Bayley come up. But I don't know if she's quite finished down in NXT. But I think we definitely need some women to come up. But I just can't for the life of me think who it's going to be. Bayley is obviously the obvious answer, but...
Well, that leads me on to another question I was going to ask, which is how do you see the distribution of the women wrestlers in this draft? Do you think they'll split them up, or do you think to try and keep the women's division as strong as it can be, that they'll keep them mainly to one show? Because I can't see them having 2 women's belts, so it makes sense for them to be on one or the other. So how do you see that panning out, Chelsea?
I honestly don't have a clue. I'm guessing that I think the way they could do it is have 2 separate rosters and then have the champ float between. But there again, thinking about it that way, say you've got Sasha Banks on one, Becky Lynch on the other. Having the champ purely focused on, say, Sasha Banks is going to put all the focus onto the women on, say, SmackDown over the other show.
Yeah, how do you build for title shots and things like that?
Yeah, and that would surely then lead to, I mean, obviously, say, on the Raw pay-per-views, you haven't got the champ there because she's feuding with someone on SmackDown. You're going to have secondary feuds, so if anything, it could be a good thing, because it would raise up that secondary level of stories that we don't really get at the moment with the women.
So no time to put a brand split in for women when you've just got the women's title starting.
That's why I don't think they'll do 2 belts, because they've just they've had a big revamp of the division. They've redone the belt, they've renamed it. It doesn't make sense to split that in half.
Sorry.
2-0. The Welsh are going home. They're going home. They're going home.
But no,
Anyway.
I definitely, the worst thing that could happen is they bring the Divas title back, and we have Divas on Raw, women on SmackDown.
You're going to have women on Raw. You're going to have women on Raw, Divas on SmackDown. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but if SmackDown's the better show, I don't want the Divas title over there with Alicia Fox and Dana Brooke fighting over it.
As long as Paige, fucking Del Rio. As long as Paige, as long as Paige ends up on top somehow. Oh no, no, no,
Well, we all know that's what you want, Michael.
no! Fucking Del Rio. Anyway, can I go back
That's
to?
what she's doing. Yeah.
Can I go? Can I go? Can I go back to? No. Can I go back to Shinsuke?
Yes, please do.
Nakamura, you guys have all been saying you don't think it's time for him. You think he's going to come up early, but he's been on the tours with the main roster, and he's been wrestling with Jericho. He's been wrestling with Owens, and he is more than capable of going up on that main roster, like without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't think it was ever a question of whether he's capable. I think it's just that he's kind of needed in NXT maybe to keep that title picture strong.
You've got Austin Aries and Bobby Roode and EY if they finally sign in. I think you've got plenty down there to keep that interesting. The only question that I have is the fact that he's not. Has he ever said he wants the NXT title? Because all he's ever he's come down and he said he wants to fight the Icon, which is Finn Balor. But why would you just go straight to the Icon rather than going for the belt when there was, what's Samoa Joe doing now?
I seem to remember after the last NXT takeover that he came out and he said, I want to go for the title, but before I can go for the title, I've got to take out the Icon.
Yeah, that sounds.
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, that sounds quite familiar actually. I just don't think he needs to be down there that long. I don't think he's going to get anything out of it, and I don't think they'll keep him down there, given his presumable sizable pay packet. Keep him down there just to bring along the products. I think he's a massive draw in Japan, which is exactly why he's been on the Japanese tours. And if he goes onto that main roster, I think there's going to be an influx of viewers. So I mean that's all plus points for him going up. But I mean I just don't see it. I can't see it happening.
Fair enough. Another question I wanted to cover as well regarding the draft is how do we see the tag division shaping up? Because it's been a bit weird. It looked like when the Vaudevillains and Enzo and Cass came up that it was one of those two going to go into a feud with the New Day, but obviously what happened with Enzo getting a concussion kind of put paid to that, and it maybe looked like they weren't ready. But there's a lot of tag teams, but in terms of how that title picture shapes up, how do we see that working out with the brand split? Similar to the women's division, is there enough to split them over two shows is what I'm getting
at. Tag teams. Didn't we list them before, and we turned out that there was quite a lot.
Yes.
I think there is quite a few tag teams, but I think very little of them are ones that you care about. I mean, you've got the Ascension, you've got, I can't even remember their names.
The Finilot.
The Costa Rican tour.
Yeah. I mean, you got those. You got the Ascension, Dudley Boys, I guess, kind of come down there. You got the Usos.
Vaudevillains, Enzo and Cass.
Is that it?
The Wyatt family, the Bullet Club, the Lucha Dragons.
But I think that proves the point, doesn't it? Is that unless you are New Day, Enzo and Cass, the Wyatts and the Vaudevillains, you don't really even think about the others.
So should not consolidate it into one division on one show is kind of the question I'm trying to ask, I guess, in a roundabout way.
I can't see it happen again because of the titles. Why would you be on one show as a tag team if there's no titles? Now there is precedent obviously for this that both shows could have the tag team titles and they have done in the past. There's enough tag teams to do that, in my opinion. You don't need that many tag teams to have a tag team division, and also there's plenty of scope just to create people. I mean, who's the longest reigning tag team champions that WWE has had? London and Kendrick. I mean, come on. Paul London and Brian Kendrick as the longest tag team champions. So yeah, I can definitely see them having separate shows, not a dedicated tag team show, and two different belts.
Fair enough. You've sold me. So SmackDown Tag Team Champions Owens and Zayn, please.
Sure.
Get that odd couple thing going on.
I was thinking more of, maybe Balor and Shinsuke, but okay. Could you imagine a Shinsuke Balor tag team?
Okay.
I can, yeah.
We saw one at the NXT house show.
Yeah, we did. Put some gold around their waists.
I don't think both of them are going to get some gold eventually. I don't think that's going to be an issue for those two guys, to be honest.
I mean, that's the question that I have. The gold on the shows. Which belt's going where?
Well, I think there's going to be a main belt for each show, but you're right. Does the B belt or the second tier belt, Intercontinental goes to one, US goes to the other? That's, I assume, what they're going to do.
I think it's the best idea, isn't it? I mean, I don't know quite how I feel about having two like main belts again, but as for the Intercontinental in the US, it's definitely going to be a good thing having them separately on different shows, because like at the moment the IC title, I mean, it is very much kind of the second belt, isn't it? But the US belt has just fizzled to nothing. But if you put that as the only other second belt on another show, it's instantly going to be raised, isn't it?
Didn't we say that we think that's because they're in no man's land up until this draft is done?
I think that's where the whole of Raw is at the moment. It is just no man's land for the next couple of weeks, and just
Shit. You just think it's shit. Fair enough.
no.
It was kind of always going to happen, because they had to announce it early, because obviously with the internet being what it is and fans having the level of access to do, everyone found out about it probably earlier than WWE would have liked. And there was always going to be an element of, the weeks before, what's the point in trying to kick off new storylines, or you just got to tie up all your loose ends and go into the draft with a clean slate, I guess. So it was always going to happen. It's probably why they can get away with having a July the 4th episode with fucking half the show just being a USA beatdown of everyone else.
No, totally, absolutely accurate. I mean, they've got nothing to press forward, have they? So why bother?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anything else about the draft that anyone else thought about? Anything I've missed, or anything you thought might come out? Have we got any more outlandish predictions? Anything mental you think is going to come out of this?
Yeah, I want to make some just random predictions. I'll mention a few that Stephen has said as well, just so we can talk about some. Stephen's first one is that Shinsuke will be drafted, which we've already kind of discussed. I want to predict that Eric Bischoff or Paul Heyman will be running one of the shows. Again, I think the odds of that are very unlikely, because they've both got their own production companies that they do a lot of things for. So I don't know if they can put their time into it, but I for some reason I feel it that one of them are going to be running the show, and that would be absolutely awesome. I think that's my main one, and that is a big onion, Hannah, because I don't think anyone else thinks that's legitimately going to happen. But that's my one outlandish prediction, that Eric Bischoff will return to WWE. That'd be it. I think I'm the only one who's actually excited that could happen.
Well, I don't know, because me and you did the fancy draft pod a few weeks back, and we both came to the conclusion that Paul Heyman should be one of them.
Because... yeah, definitely Paul Heyman should be, but Eric Bischoff. Who's asking for him?
Yeah, well, true.
Me. Just me.
The campaign starts here.
Yeah. It's controversial. Controversy creates cash.
Get Bischoff on one and Russo on the other.
Fucking hell. Jesus. Everyone will watch SmackDown, don't you worry. Well, wherever Bischoff is. Chelsea got an outlandish prediction?
Not that I can think of. I think I'm just going to go with what I said last week of just Bailey's not going to be anywhere near the draft or nothing said of her. I think she's firmly down in NXT, and if they're going to bring up any of the women, unfortunately, I can see it being maybe somebody like Nia Jax, or hopefully, I'd like to see Carmella maybe being brought up, or Alexa Bliss or somebody. But I just don't think that the women's division down in NXT is strong enough at the moment, other than Asuka, to warrant anybody being a big draw other than Bailey. So I'm just going to go with that Bailey's going to be nowhere to be seen.
I mean, that's a solid one because, I mean, you think it's obvious that she comes up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she seems to have unfinished business in NXT. But what is she going to gain from being down there anymore?
That's what I mean. I was thinking the other day. This is completely unrelated to the draft, but I was thinking to myself the other day, like when Asuka's time finally finishes, I can't see anybody other than Bailey taking the belt back. I can't see any of the women down there who legitimately could take the belt off Asuka.
Yeah, you've got Nia Jax. She can be put over that way.
But that's a terrible idea.
You may think it's terrible, but it's definitely something that you can and will do. She's big, she's strong, she's powerful.
She's The Rock's cousin.
She's The Rock's cousin. Ross, you got any outlandish ones?
Well, there was one I mean, this is outlandish to the point where it ain't gonna fucking happen, but I was thinking that they might just get rid of the US belt completely and replace it with something else.
Ooh, what are you gonna go with? Pick a belt.
Oh, Cruiserweight would be lovely, wouldn't it, given if they get this Cruiserweight Open Championship thing going on.
I tell you what, the buzz around this Cruiserweight thing is ridiculous, to the point where people on Twitter, people in the business on Twitter are saying this is the most exciting thing that WWE have put their name on in quite a long time. And if not for anything else, that it's just a massive scouting combine for them, because essentially that's what it is. They're just putting all of the, big names in the indie scene into a cruiserweight competition, and are likely to sign up. I'd wager 50%. I'd put the over under there. 50.5%. Who's going to go over?
My reason for thinking that they might, if they got replaced with the cruiserweight thing, great. But I mean, if you've got a US title and you want it to be your second belt, it doesn't make any sense for it to be called the US title. If that makes any sense to you guys, I mean, it's such a specific thing in it, given what they make that belt mean, because it always turns into a USA versus everyone else jobby eventually. I mean,
so what are you saying?
Are you saying second belt?
Are you saying that there was the suggestion in a previous podcast of ours that the World Heavyweight Championship would be the one-on-one show, and the US title could very well be? Oh no, we were saying the Intercontinental, weren't we?
Yeah.
Ah, that's different. Yeah, I mean, I've always found those belts weird. The US title, and even in the same respect, the European title. Like, it's not just Europeans and Americans who have that belt.
Exactly. At least in the Continental grammatically makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what you replace it with, but my whole thing is, if they're going to have two belts on the show, an A belt and a B belt, it makes no sense for the B belt to be specifically a US title. That's my thinking behind it. I don't know what they replace it with, but I think they might do something.
They could just go back to light heavyweight.
But then you're also shutting out certain people from being able to do it, aren't you? In terms of holding the belt.
That's true. I don't know. The one that always works is TV. TV title.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Anything.
Where can it be defended? On TV?
Yeah.
No matter where you are. Are you on TV? Yep. Oh, well, it can be defended. All right.
But my outlandish prediction is that they'll replace the US title with something, but I don't know what it is.
I mean, that's as outlandish as they come.
Yeah.
Stephen thinks that the heavyweight champion is not the first overall pick. I've already said that.
It's tied with you guys thinking Cena will go first, won't it?
No, I think Ambrose does go first. I think whoever's running SmackDown, if they get the first pick, I think Ambrose goes first. And again, I'm tying it into the fact that I want Bischoff or Heyman to be running the show. I can totally see that they go, I want someone to be the face of the company. One, I'm running SmackDown live now. I want the championship. I want that belt. And then two, Ambrose is pretty crazy anyway. That's controversial. Let's go with him.
No, I'm kind of with Chelsea. I think if they'll go Cena.
Wow. I'm not going to argue against that. so yeah, I can see it too.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, in terms of the out of nowhere thoughts towards the draft, that's kind of about it. I think we've covered almost everything.
Well, I've got a question in format.
Okay.
How the hell are they going to do this on the show? Like the very first draft show that they did 20 picks each on the show itself, with a few matches in between of the stars who had just been picked by the respective shows. I think that's how it worked. How do you see this one playing out? Because is SmackDown 2 hours? We've got confirmation of this. So it's a 2-hour show. How many picks are we going to get? Like how many picks are going to be live? How many picks are going to be supplemental after this show? How many are going to be WWE.com? How many of them are just going to be put on the WWE network as a post show?
Oh yeah, I think that might be the case. Is maybe there's a post SmackDown special on the network or something like that. And I think you said it the other day actually, Michael, is we do get a few of the picks on SmackDown, maybe say 20 of them, and we get okay, my pick's gonna fight your pick in the next match sort of thing. And then it just kind of rolls over onto a network special.
Yeah, but we did then say Finn Balor versus Bayley, and that didn't really work. I suppose they can get out of that by the fact that it's all scripted. So, yeah, that works. Lucky for them. I just have a massive question mark over the whole format of it, how it's going to work, and I don't have an answer. I don't. Because I can't see them in this day and age putting their first SmackDown live show having 20 picks and not much wrestling.
True, but it's kind of opening with a fairly unique format isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it's kind of also like the entrance of also the start of a new era. So it wouldn't be a terrible thing if it didn't have as much wrestling as normal. I don't think that would be a particular problem given the special nature of the episode.
Good point. As long as it's not full of American propaganda, you're good with it.
Basically, yeah. But I just like draft episodes anyway, because it's always cool to you get the moment where it's like, and my next pick is, and then it goes to the Titantron, and then someone's music, big part, all that bollocks. It's kind of cool. I like that.
And also, you also get the ones who are completely unhappy and throw chairs around.
Yeah.
Does any of you have any favourite draft memories? I think we've discussed this maybe before, but any favourite draft memories from WWE?
I think the very first draft with, was it Taker being picked?
Yeah, Taker got pissed because Vince promised him that Flair wouldn't pick him because there was some animosity between Flair and Undertaker at the time as he was Big Evil. And he was sat at the back of the Superstars locker room, just sat at the back by himself with his. I think Kane was next to him actually, and the first pick by Flair of the entire thing was Undertaker, and he flipped out.
Yeah.
he went batshit and went to Vince and started telling him to sort it out, and Vince was like, no. Vince had the first pick, but he picked The Rock, and then Flair's first pick was Undertaker, and Taker wasn't happy. Yeah, I liked that one too. John Cena being drafted when he had the title, that was a biggie.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick.
Sorry, do you want to go, Russ?
No, John Cena getting drafted with the belt was.
Oh yeah, you have to tell me. I can't remember that one.
Well, they drafted him and he was the champ. I mean, madness.
Fucking hell, that's fucking I'm not sure of any other ones that stick out to me. You always get the ones sometimes where it's like you get a draft pick and it's a returning star. That's always fun.
Oh, could we see Kurt Angle?
No. Could we? Yes, maybe. I think that's when we find out that Randy Orton's come back. Like he just is just a draft pick,
Yeah.
rather than him popping up at some point. That's the thing with the internet now, though. I mean, is he going to be able to get that far? If that is their plan, is he going to be able to get that far without being found out?
Probably not.
No, maybe not. I mean, I live in hope. But I suppose we have these inbuilt possibilities just by the fact there's NXT stars to come up.
Yeah, which is cool. I do like that dynamic of, there's a whole pool of talent there that we could possibly be seeing people pluck from. So there's that unknown element which I like. Kind of like the day after WrestleMania when you kind of knew some people would be appearing from NXT, but you weren't quite sure who. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, none of them called the ones who it was going to be, did they?
Oh no, but didn't get that at the time.
But yeah, that probably wraps us up for the show, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, it's good to be back from my point of view anyway. Russ is delighted that a bit rusty in terms of hosting, but yeah. So where can we find us? You can find us on Twitter at Out of Nowhere Pod, and you can get in touch with us via email at, somebody read out the email address.
Outofnowherepod@gmail.com?
Awesome.
Or is it outofnowherepodcast@gmail.com?
I think it's Out of Nowhere podcast.
Send it to both.
We don't even know our own email address.
No, it is outofnowherepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
See, Mike's a pro. Where can we find you, Mike?
You can find me at DjangoBob96 on Twitter, and Django Bob everywhere else, basically.
Chelsea?
Just fight Chelsea Fight on Twitter.
Awesome. And I'm at Russ Pointing on Twitter. That was one hell of a rusty show from my point of view, bit out of practice, but thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.